Hello and welcome once again to It's a Frankly Harry podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weber. I'm so glad once again you could join me here in the forest for another spectacular show. The forest is looking really lush, by the way. So I know you can't see it since we aren't on video. But really glad that you're here, and I have a big show for you today. It's Tuesday after Memorial Day. I normally, of course, or at least of late, have been recording on Mondays, but I hope you had a great Memorial Day. I hope you remembered the fallen soldiers who gave us our freedom and our ability to enjoy a free life and kind of have our own little sovereignty, if you will, and the ability to record and listen to podcasts is most certainly included in that, and I thank them for that freedom, and I'm so glad that you're here with me again today. It was a big weekend. I want to recap this quickly. I guess in a lot of ways I'm kind of out of touch on certain current events. I don't know why, or I'm not keeping up with them. I guess I'm distracted by going back to school or focusing on certain things. But on Thursday, I was at the barber shop, and sometimes I talk with my barber about wrestling. And, he and I, as it turns out now, are not really keeping up with it very closely. But I told him that I didn't watch WrestleMania this year because I just didn't get into the hype, and there was a couple of matches that seemed kind of mildly interesting to me, but it wasn't enough for me to watch. But anyway, I thought that John Cena had lost, quote unquote, to Cody Rhodes, and that Cena was just there as a one-off and to help increase viewership and ratings or whatever. But apparently, I tuned in this past Saturday night to Saturday night's main event, and he in fact has won the main championship belt in WWE again. First, they said something crazy like 17 times, which I don't. As long as these guys often keep the belts, I don't know how correct that is. But anyway, I talked to my barber as though he lost, and WrestleMania was 5 weeks ago, and somehow I was not aware of that tidbit, so I feel kind of embarrassed about that. But and of course, Cena's apparently a bad guy now too, but kind of toned down a little bit, I think. Not really smiling anymore, but he's not too egregious in his evil, I guess you could say. But anyway, I just thought that was an interesting occurrence from my Memorial Day weekend, and then of course on Sunday we had the big car racing day, and with Monaco and Indy and Charlotte, and I'm hoping here in the next year or two maybe to go make another trip to Indy. I went there one time about 20 years ago, and would like to see it again. It wasn't quite as popular or as full back then during those days, but it's kind of regained its former glory, it seems like. So always intrigued about that race, and the others are great too. Monaco would be a great place to visit. I don't, even at the F1 time, it should be pretty beautiful. But anyway, and I've been to the other one too in Charlotte one time as well with my friends. So anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's show. So I really only have like one topic to talk about today, and there's not really a lot to say about it, but I do have a lot of stories. I do have a particular time in my life and some fun stories associated with it. But what's been happening lately in the last couple of weeks, I've had a little bit more free time, kind of between school sessions, thinking about things. And the thing that I'm most curious about right now is I'm always thinking about life, and you look at this world, and I talk about a lot of topics like this on this show. If you've been listening for any length of time, I look at this world and the life that we lead in our humanity, and I think about what could be versus what is. What is possible versus what is reality, and in terms of what we see in life and what actually happens, and then I'm also kind of trying to reconcile that with my Christian faith and what I've been studying in the Bible, and the relationship with Jesus and everything, and how faith relates to expectations. Those two terms seem to be closely related, probably not exactly the same, but I have heard in my years, I haven't heard many sermons or messages on this, but I'm always wondering about how faith leads to expectations. And I hear some preachers, like the preacher that I most remember a bit about it would say something like, if you don't expect big things, then you'll never be disappointed. But then sometimes you get your hopes really high, and God has other plans, and do you really know His will, or do you understand the reasoning behind why things are happening? And anyway, it's I don't want to get too much into the weeds because it can get to be a really complicated subject. But I was thinking about a time in my life back in the 80s, back when I had just started school or been in school for a few years, that kind of illustrates this point. And I have a number of stories within this time frame that I'm going to tell you because I think they're fun and interesting, and actually a couple of them I think I told before on the old show close to 2 years ago now. But let me kind of give you an illustration along with these fun stories, if you will, and we'll do that for the rest of the podcast. But so when I was a young tyke, when I started school, I went to private school for 5 years. Okay. The first 3 were at a private Episcopal preschool that went through kindergarten, and then we graduated from there and went to a private Episcopal school that at the time went through 8th grade. And I wound up only staying for first and second grades, and I'll get into some of the reasoning for that later. But anyway, the Episcopal Church at that time, as far as I could tell, had not gone crazy yet, as some other organized religions seem to have gone crazy since that time as well. But anyway, so this is from about 1981 to 86 is the years that I totally count, and I enjoyed going to school there a lot. It was good quality education. They had good discipline there, and I had a lot of good memories from that time. And perhaps the biggest thing is that it was a very carefree time. My mom and dad were still together, and there wasn't any reason for me really to be worried or concerned about anything in the future, or worried that anything would be taken care of. I mean, they were my parents, and they were good parents, and they took care of stuff for me and for my little brother. So, and anyway, so I enjoyed the preschool time. In fact, I think that preschool we only went to school from like 9 to 12 every day. And, it's kind of hard to fathom now. I don't know if they would allow accreditation for such a short time or not, but we only went to school for like 3 hours every day, and there was no need really for a nap time for that short of a period, but we did have a snack time and did artwork and all that stuff. And I enjoyed that time, but the couple of stories I was going to get to is that the next school that I went to after that, which wasn't It was kind of across town. It wasn't really across town, but it was a few miles away. But anyway, and we all carpooled, parents would volunteer to do a carpool on a certain day, and the kids would pool together and they drop us off at the house. That was a big deal back then, by the way, carpooling. But my main memories, of course, were from first and second grade. I had a first grade, both of my teachers, by the way, there were a little eccentric in different ways. And my first grade teacher, I recounted a story a couple of years back that, I know we don't have a ton of time here, but I'm going to tell these stories anyway, But I remember we were at a spelling bee or some kind of spelling competition, and I was in the front with a couple of girls who were pretty good friends, and somehow or other we managed to win this competition or whatever. But between exercises or whatever, or if I'm remembering the details exactly, but I was basically swapping spit with each one of them. One of them was blonde and one was brunette, and we kept taking turns kissing one another. The girls didn't kiss each other, by the way, in case some of you are wondering. But yeah, this was like early 1985, and it felt good kissing them, and we got these. I started getting these other feelings, so I guess you could say I was kind of horny at an early age. But anyway, this really happened, and I tried to kiss other girls in the class too, and one time I got in trouble for it with this. This was an older lady who was our teacher, and she managed to corner me and give me a kiss of her own. It was all like old and slimy and it's yucky and shit. But anyway, that was kind of a favorite memory of mine in that class. And some years later, I saw both of these girls. They were still good friends. Wound up at Texas Tech with me. So we were we're talking about a situation from 85. It's now 1996, and I saw them in the dining hall, and we talked about a lot of things, caught up and everything. And I told them, I asked them about, hey, you remember that incident where we were kissing each other there in first grade? And they flat out denied it, and it was very hurtful and insulting to me. And then I wound up basically not talking with them anymore after that. But and I was kind of thinking here, I still have the kind of the semi-dirty mind, but since we were older and at Tech at that point, I wonder if I don't know if they were playing a game or testing me, or if there was any chance we might have tried a menage a trois with each other or experimented or something. I don't know. But anyway, it was kind of insulting that they didn't remember. And the weird thing is that there was nobody else at the table for them to try to cover up this story. So I don't know why they didn't want to discuss it anymore. But and then there was and then you go on to second grade. I had a different teacher. She was much younger than the first teacher. I think she was early 30s at the time, and I didn't see her as attractive back then, but I mean, if I visualize her now, she was probably, I'd say she was fairly attractive, but she was kind of a bitch and very, very strict. And I know a story or two from that time was that, we were doing something in class, working on some project or something, probably artwork or something, I don't know, and I was just being kind of a crazy boy and I just said the word fart in front of these two girls, and they told on me, and then this teacher punished me. I couldn't understand it, and I mean, I know I was being a little crass and a boy, but I mean, she just punished me, and I didn't feel like I did anything wrong. And there was another incident where apparently I intercepted or saw a note that some other classmate had that said, so-and-so teacher is a bitch or whatever. And I said hey, teacher, you should see this. And then I got in trouble again because apparently, I guess because I wasn't minding my own business, I think is what happened. So So anyway, I had a lot of trouble from her. I don't know. We didn't seem to. I don't know. We didn't get along as well as I think maybe we could have in later years, if you kind of catch my drift. But there was also a lot of like arm grabbing back then, and in order to direct me to a certain place and or what have you there. But and then one more story before I kind of wrap it up here. But something that happened at that school during both first and second grades. I think the original incident happened in first grade, but there was this upperclassman, if you will. Excuse me. I don't know exactly what grade he was or how much older he was, but in first grade, I was just playing around and on the playground, playing foursquare, because there was a foursquare court, the park across the street where we had recess, and I was just being a kid and mouthing off and saying, and I told this guy, I said, or he overheard it. I said to one of my classmates, I said, "Don't worry, I'm a professional." Like there's a professional foursquare player, And then he overheard it and just, and then showed me up on the foursquare court there, and then every time I saw him after that through second grade, it was he would always say professional foursquare player, and try to make me feel bad about it or whatever. And I don't know, I don't understand why he couldn't pick on kids his own age and what have you. But it would have been really funny if I'm trying to recount this for you, and it would have been really funny if you could have witnessed it yourself. But anyway, so be it. But yeah, this kid was kind of an asshole, and I don't know. But anyway, the point of this whole thing, telling you all these stories, and I really enjoyed my time there. Like I said, it was a good education. Learned good discipline, and actually learned a little bit about God and the Bible. I mean, you can learn things from other groups of people, even if they're not really your flavor or cup of tea. But that was a great time for me. But in '86, and so anyway, first of all, let me backtrack just a little bit. My expectation in life, since we were talking about expectations in our faith and things that could have been or could be, but then wound up not being a reality, my expectation was that I was going to be at this school through the 8th grade, which was another 6 years. And unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way because my mom and dad decided to get divorced in I think it was still winter of '86. I finished out that year in second grade, and primarily for financial reasons, I wound up in public school the following year. And I don't want to put public school down either, but it was a lot different. It was a lot different than I had known. I had trouble going there and adjusting initially. They were about a year behind academically, and then there was less discipline, of course, and then there wasn't any kind of religious instruction or knowledge given. And I had a hard time with that. And because my mom and dad split, and then primarily finances was a reason that I couldn't continue at the original school. And I wonder sometimes if that's not, I still think about these things, and I wonder if that has to do a lot with kind of my nervousness and anxiety and a little bit of depression that I've had ever since then. Because, I mean, I just, maybe I wasn't really living in a reality back then in the private school days, but then I don't know, it just really set me back to earth, and I guess I've never really been able to get over it, I guess. It's really crazy. And then, other things have happened. We had other moved out of town, and had some difficulties along the way with kids in school, and then I had issues in dental school, and all these things. And the beginning kind of, for some reasons, kind of goes back to that time about what could have been versus what actually happened, and having these high expectations for life, and expectations that those girls would have remembered me at Texas Tech, they remembered me, they just didn't remember these other incidents, but anyway, I just wanted to share that all with you. I'd really I told you on this show before, I've learned a lot about my faith and my journey here in the last 8 months or a year, actually, I think it is now, or maybe 8 months. 8 months since I've really been going cover to cover with the Bible. I'm still not done yet, and still learning about the relationship there. And I don't. I'm trying to explain this the best I can here, but I don't hear a lot of word about faith and how it relates to our expectations. And I think I've heard maybe one sermon that I really remember on it in my years in church. That's part of the reason, by the way, you can't depend on church for everything. But I think about that, and I think about that internal struggle that I think all of us struggle with about what we believe life could be like versus what it actually is like. And but anyway, that's about it. That's something hopefully that for you to ponder and digest here over the next few days and week until our next show. And I hope you'll do that. I think the best thing about this podcast and this medium is that I try to be authentic. I try to be real. I think that's the key to making. That's the biggest key to making a successful podcast. It's not about niche and trying to differentiate yourself necessarily from other people, but talking about these real issues and trying to digest these issues with one another. And I hope, again, I always request for you to make a comment or send me a DM or like, send me a like as well is fine also. But I don't hear a lot from you, and this is, supposed to be kind of interactive and discussionary and everything. With direct messages, I do have to be a little cautious, I think, of bots. So if you say something, don't just say hi or how are you or something like that, but just try to repeat some content from the show so maybe we can actually get a discussion going. But anyway, I hope that was an entertaining and funny show, as well as kind of a deep and serious show on certain topics, kind of a human condition discussion this week. And I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I thank you so much for tuning in. I don't get a lot of clarity on the numbers anymore, but it seems like the numbers are going up. I'm so thankful for that. And as I continue to churn on and evolve in this show, this is, by the way, episode number 60 already. And I didn't do anything particularly special for it. I'm actually clothed right now as opposed to my birthday suit. But I get kind of busy, and I haven't done a lot of the things that I have kind of hoped to do so far as video and guests and all that. But I thank you for listening, and I would love it for you to share this, because after all, sharing is caring, and share this with your family and friends and neighbors and people at Walmart or church or Whataburger or wherever you happen to be, the library, the post office, wherever. Hit the subscribe button. All those things that are available on should be available to you throughout all your, or wherever you find your finer podcasts is all those things should be available there is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, with that, it's probably a good stopping point here for this week. But I thank you so much. I love you. I'm so glad that you're here every week and supporting me here in the forest. And, can't do it without you. So please make yourself known. Make yourself part of the family. I'd love to hear from you. So anyway, I'm going to call it there. This is your host, Frank Weber, signing off from the forest. If it's a Frankly Harry podcast, we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much. Bye.